Okay, we're not going to overreact to an exhibition game. We're not going to overreact to an exhibition game. We're not going to overreact to an exhibition game. We're not going to overreact to an exhibition game. We're not going to overreact to an exhibition game. We're totally going to overreact to an exhibition game. Here on the Morning Pit on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I mean, overreacting is what we need to do. We all live in the moment, right? And so we have to react to the moment and overreact to the moment and make the good seem even better than it actually is and the worst seem even worse, or make the bad seem even worse than it actually is. It's what we do in sports commentary all the time. And so how are we not going to overreact to an exhibition game after Pitt beat UPJ last night? Pitt Oakland beat Pitt Johnstown 96-60 at the Peterson Events Center last night. Of course we're going to overreact to that. What else would we do? But of course, what I'm going to ask you to do first is like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. That way you won't miss any of our video content that we put out here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We have these daily Morning Pitt videos where we talk about everything going on in the world of Pitt sports. We have weekly live streams. We do a weekly live show every week, every Wednesday night at 8:30. We moved it back one night. This week we did it Tuesday night because of the basketball game last night. And then we have our post-game show that we do after every football game. Not sure if I'm going to do one after every basketball game. That's a lot of live streams and a lot of post-game shows. I don't know if we need to do that, but we'll pick and choose some. We'll do a few We'll do a few Pitt basketball post-game shows, but all those things that we do will be right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So make sure you like this video and do all those things. And then head over to the website, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com, the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet. Football, basketball, and recruiting. You find it all right here at Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. An opportunity for you to talk with other Pitt fans on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com. That's what people really like to do, right? Is talk to other fans about their favorite teams. And that's what you got a chance to do at Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. So go and check that out for sure, Panther-Lair.com. All right. So it was an exhibition game. It was just an exhibition game against a team from the PSAC West, a good team from the PSAC West, but a Division II team nonetheless. A 20-win Division II team, but a Division II team nonetheless. We're not going to overreact to how Pitt Oakland did against Pitt Johnstown, but we are going to overreact to how Pitt Oakland did against Pitt Johnstown. The real test will start on Monday when Pitt hosts North Carolina A&T at the Peterson Events Center for a 7 o'clock tip-off. Really, though, even that we're going to overreact to. We're going to overreact to all of these non-conference games. And they'll slowly and steadily kind of climb in their significance and importance and relevance and actual sort of truth in what they tell us about this Pitt basketball team. But for now, we don't have any of those things. All we've got is an open practice that the public and the media got to watch. We're a secret scrimmage, a closed scrimmage that we've gotten stats from, and then an exhibition game. So last night was the first time you actually got to see this year's Pitt basketball team play against another team. So of course we are going to overreact. Of course, let's just say, of course we're going to react, and inevitably those reactions are going to lead to overreactions. A good friend last night, someone I respect, who I think is a smart guy, came up to me after the game and said, so what do you think, like 20, 21 wins, like somewhere around there? And I was like, my first thought was, yeah, I think so. But then I was like, whoa, I got to just hold on. It's an exhibition game, right? It's an exhibition game against a Division II team. The first thing you would say is, well, at least they didn't lose, and at least they didn't look bad. They dominated. They won 96-60, not quite as dominating as the Pitt women did in their exhibition game, but nevertheless, they dominated and looked great, which is exactly what you want to come out of that exhibition game with. That's the result you want, is a dominating win. But my biggest thing coming out of last night's game, coming out of that exhibition game against UPJ, is sort of the biggest thing that I've been talking about for a while with this team. Pretty much anytime we talk about it, is that I'm really, I'm really interested and almost excited to see these guys play and see how this team plays, because it just seems to me like it's going to be a really, really interesting group. I like how all these pieces sort of seem like they fit together. The biggest questions are always going to be about those guys right there. That's Bub Carrington on the screen, who looks like he's about 7 foot tall in that photo. There's Marlon Barnes, the other freshman. He got in late in the game. But I mean, it's going to be about those younger guards and how they kind of mesh and how they fit in. Of course, how the front court develops, how the transfers fit in, and everything like that. But I'm just so intrigued by the pieces on this team. And I was intrigued by the pieces on this team through the summer and as we moved into the fall. And you heard me talk about it a lot of times. I mean, obviously the development of Federico and the Diaz-Graham twins. Blake Hinson, how he plays coming off his breakout year of college basketball last year. How does he take a step forward? How does he improve? Zach Austin, the most interesting man in the world. I mean, I've said this a bunch of times about how intrigued I am by Zach Austin because they don't have another guy like him. They haven't had another guy like him in a long time. I'm not really sure how long it's been, and we'll have to, see once he gets playing real games who a fair comparison would be. But a guy his size, whatever he is, 6'6", 6'7", who can jump like he can, who's the athlete he is. He made several wow plays last night where, I mean, literally you were watching, wow. He had a pump fake drive dunk that would make Sam Young proud. And the dunk was, as someone described it last night, was effortless. I mean, he just got off the floor and just boom. It was explosive. He had another dunk that was actually down at the other, and it was in the second half. It was down on Pitt's bench end of the court. It was an offensive rebound situation, and he got the rebound and brought it down like right under the hoop or right next to the basket in traffic. 2 or 3 UPJ players right around him, and he just effortlessly, in a situation where you would think that most players it would be too crowded, there would be contact, they best case scenario would draw a foul. He just right up between everyone and boom with a dunk. He is an explosive, exciting athlete. Bub Carrington said that every game there's a chance he could be on ESPN's top 10, and it's great to have a super athlete on the court with you like that. Really, really interesting guy. And I'm intrigued to see what he does this season. With the scoring, he didn't really shoot well last night. I don't think he made a 3. It was 0 for 3 from 3, but he was 4 for 4 from the floor, or 4 for 4 from inside the arc. And so you'll take that, and I think his shooting will come along. He's been a better three-point shooter over the course of his career than what he did last night against UPJ. I think it was just sort of a cold night for him. But I think the defense, the rebounding, the athleticism, the ability to explode through the lane and finish at the rim, and then add in some outside shooting, really, really interesting guy. Ishmael Leggett has I think over the last month really grown in stature in terms of what I think Pitt fans and Pitt media are sort of expecting out of him. I think the coaches have had high expectations for him for a while, but after he dropped 20 on Georgetown and really has shown some of his own shooting prowess and sort of explosive play and his ability to drive and ability to finish. Last night he scored 12. He shot 4 of 9 from the floor, hit 3 of 4 from outside the arc, had grabbed 4 rebounds and 2 assists. Again, just really interesting guy. And then the 2 freshman guards of Bub Carrington and Jalen Lowe. Bub Carrington got the start last night, and here's maybe our first big overreaction. And maybe it's not that much of an overreaction. I think if you watched the game last night, you'd probably be like, no, Chris, that's not an overreaction. That's absolutely true. But first big overreaction is Bub Carrington is no worse than the 3rd best player on this team, and he might be even higher than that. I mean, he looks special, but I'm doing it. I'm overreacting to an exhibition game. We need to see him get out there in live competition against other Division I teams. We need to see him get into ACC play. We need to see him play other power conference teams. We need to see all of that. But against UPJ, he looks like he might be, again, a top 3 player on this team, and maybe not number 3 either. He just looked that good. In my notes, and they didn't give it to him in the stats, and I don't know how, but he started the game at point guard last night, and the way I wrote it down, he fed Federico for the game's first basket, and then he fed Zach Austin for an and one that Austin got the basket, but he couldn't convert the free throw. They didn't give him an assist on that. They didn't give Carrington an assist until 4.5 minutes in. He fed Ishmael Leggett for a three. And this was after he had hit a three himself. But when they went to the first media timeout at the 15-minute mark, I thought, Carrington had like 3 points and 3 assists is how I tallied it. They didn't give him all those assists. I don't understand. I feel like if you pass the ball to the guy who makes a shot, you should get an assist. But never mind that. It was clear how willing he was to pass and how willing he was to dish the ball. And what was great is after that first media timeout, they brought Jalen Lowe onto the court. But they didn't replace Carrington with Lowe. They brought Lowe in and had them both on the court together. And Lowe took over the point guard duties, and Carrington shifted over to a two guard and became a playmaker. And in 20 seconds after that, drove inside the arc and pulled up for a jump shot that he knocked down to make it 15-4. And so you're watching it, and this is the first 5 minutes and 20 seconds of the game. You've seen him hand out 3 assists. You've seen him make a three. You've seen him drive and pull up for a jumper. And you're like, this kid looks awesome. This kid looks really, really good. And he finished the game with 13 points, 4 of 8 from the floor. Yeah, that you'll take that. 3 of 4 from 3, 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, no turnovers. I mean, like, I don't know what more you could possibly ask for from Bub Carrington in that game to make you encouraged about his prospects for this season and how he's going to play. I mean, 13, 7, and 6 on 50% shooting, 75% from beyond the arc, and perfect from the free throw line, and no turnovers. This is why I'm overreacting and saying that he's maybe the second best player on the team already as a freshman who has not played a real game yet. But do you disagree with me? I mean, look, I think Zach Austin's going to be really, really good. I think Ishmael Leggett's going to be a big contributor to this team. Big fan of Federico and the Diaz-Graham twins. But right now, I might have to put Bub Carrington right behind Blake Hinson based on the way he played in the exhibition game. I like Jalen Lowe as well. I think you can see why the coaches picked Carrington to have a bigger role, at least at this point in the season, why they started him at point guard. Minutes-wise, let me check what their minutes, the minute comparison was. Carrington played 24 minutes. Lowe came off the bench and played 16. I think you can see why they split it up like that and why they had those guys sort of playing in that minute distribution, because Carrington looks like a legitimate, ready to play right now playmaker, and Lowe doesn't look far off. I mean, Lowe had a good game last night. Jalen Lowe finished with 8 points, 3 of 9 shooting. He had 2 rebounds, 1 assist, and 2 fouls. He did commit a turnover. So not quite the game that Carrington had, but as your second point guard coming off the bench, you know what I mean? Your first guard off the bench, your second point guard. I mean, you take that. I think that's a pretty good performance. And if you're putting him out there with Carrington, or you're putting him out there with Leggett, and you're putting him out there with Austin and Hinson and whoever's playing the center position, I think he could do a pretty good job like that. And if things start to get a little too heavy for him, if it gets too intense, I'm not saying he's not up to the task or anything like that. If you have Leggett on the court with him, you've got a veteran ball handler who can take some of those duties. I'll tell you, so they basically went 9 deep in the first half. And as I look at that 9 deep, and they did some interesting things. At one point, they had both Diaz-Graham twins and Blake Hinson on the court at the same time. We've heard them refer to Jorge Diaz-Graham as a wing and Guillermo Diaz-Graham as the center. I mean, they talked about that all year last year. Jorge was the wing, Guillermo was the center. Last night, they added a new term to it. Jeff Capel also said when he's trying to tell the twins apart, one thing is that Guillermo's a little more serious and Jorge is a bit of a clown. So you have the clown on the wing, I guess. So the wing clown, the clown wing, whatever it is. But I mean, when you see them out there like that, where you've got Jorge, Blake, and Guillermo all playing together, and Blake's still kind of playing the 4. I mean, you get some nebulous distinctions between the 3 and the 4 depending on how they play or what types of players they have out there. Sometimes if you have think of a good example, like Jorge Diaz-Graham and Will Jeffress on the court at the same time. Who's the 3? Who's the 4? It probably comes down to a defensive assignment situation more than anything too specific about what spot they're playing. But when you put the 2 Diaz-Graham twins and Blake Hinson on the court at the same time, and I'm trying to look at one of the times they did that, and if you get Zach Austin out there as well, and I don't know, the first time they put the Diaz-Graham twins out there with Blake Hinson, they took Austin off the court. I'm trying to see if there was an instance where they had 2 Diaz-Grahams and Zach Austin. I don't necessarily see that. I'm just kind of glancing through my notes here. I don't want to slow down the show here, but yeah, I don't really see an instance where they did that. But I mean, you have the potential for a very big lineup, And look, Carlton Carrington is not a small guy either. Bub Carrington has some size to him as the freshman point guard out there. But my point is, this team can play big. And they can play really big. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to dominate the boards against a team like Duke. I think there are still going to be strength mismatches that don't favor Federico and the Diaz-Graham twins. But they can put a lot of size and a lot of length on the court that may not necessarily always win the strength battles, but can definitely disrupt guys going, serve as rim protection and use length to get in passing lanes. If they want to go to a zone with the length that those guys can bring, it could be really, really interesting to see how they all sort of play together. And particularly if they want to, put, I guess they wouldn't have Austin. You wouldn't really have Zach Austin at the 2. I guess that's probably part of the reason that I don't see any time in my notes where they had both Diaz-Graham twins and Zach Austin on the court. I think you would either have, Austin, Jorge, and Guillermo, or Jorge, Blake Hinson, and Guillermo, or Will Jeffress in that mix as well. And that's something else that I wanted to point out from last night. You talk about reacting or overreacting or this or that. I don't think there's any overreaction in saying that it was really, really cool to see Will Jeffress on the court, and not just on the court, but playing with a lot of energy and looking like he was really having a good time. And Jeff Capel mentioned that after the game. He said it was great to see his excitement and how happy he was to be out there. Of course, Jeffress missed all of last season with an injury. So as Capel put it, he was a part of it because he was with the team, but he wasn't really a part of the action. He wasn't a part of the team on the court as it was achieving all of that success. And that's got to be hard to do. And Capel talked about it last year that, Will Jeffress had some hard times when he had to be on the outside looking in with the team, when he couldn't participate, he couldn't be on the court helping them. And Will Jeffress is a guy that I think fans have been waiting for a long time. They've been waiting for that breakout, that next step from him, for a guy who was a highly touted recruit. Somebody fans were really excited about when he came in as a freshman, and he really hasn't taken that next step. And then he gets hurt and misses all last season. And I think there was a big relief for Will Jeffress just to get back on the court last night. I think it had to feel good. And you saw the energy he played with, and I think it definitely showed up in his stat line where he goes, 2 of 5 from the floor with 8 points, but he makes all 4 free throws, and he gets 8 rebounds, including 5 on the offensive end, which is exactly the game they want and need from Will Jeffress. Is 5 offensive rebounds every night? Sign me up. Because how many minutes? Hold on, bring up the stat. He played 20 minutes and got 5 offensive rebounds. They will absolutely take that. And then 3 on the defensive end. If you can get Will Jeffress going for 7 or 8 rebounds every night, coming off the bench and playing 20 minutes or less, the coaches will sign up for that, every day of the week and twice on Tuesday. Absolutely. That is a great game from Will Jeffress. And sometimes rebounding is just an energy thing. You've got to outwork the other guy. Will Jeffress has the energy right now to outwork everybody on the court because he's so excited to be back out there. And it was awesome to see. There's a great picture of him with a dunk there. It was really fun to see. They brought him in right around the 12-minute mark of the first half. And from the time he got on the court, it was all energy. And so I really enjoyed seeing that. It was, happy for him to make it back. Feel good for him to be in that situation. But look, I think overall, and I said this on Twitter last night, one of my biggest takeaways is that this team is bigger, more athletic, and faster than last year's team. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win more than last year's team, or it doesn't necessarily mean you set the expectations based on last year's team or anything like that, but they are bigger. They have more size, 1 through 5. They are faster, and I think they are more athletic. I don't think there's any question about it. Now, last year's team didn't win with its speed and athleticism and size. They won with different things. They won with shooting. They won with guard leadership. And this year's team is going to have to develop that. They ultimately only made 11 threes. They shot 11 of 34 from 3. It's 32% in the game. It's not a terrible percentage, but they're going to need to be better than that in most games. But they're also going to probably count on getting better than 1 for 6 from Blake Hinson from outside. That certainly brought the percentage down a little bit, and Jeff Capel is not concerned about it, nor should he be. But I mean, when you're looking at what this team can do well, they're going to have to get better. They're going to need leadership from the guards. The guards are going to have to grow up, and they're going to have to provide that leadership. And they're going to need the shooting to come along. Hinson's got to get his, and he will. You're going to need to get some outside shooting contributions from Austin and Leggett. Obviously, the point guards are going to have to do it as well. And then the occasional 3 that Jorge Diaz-Graham or Guillermo Diaz-Graham can chip in. I think they'll get a group effort of shooting, maybe even more than they did last year. They'll have Hinson obviously leading the charge with a lot, but everybody else is going to have to really chip in. But this team really has it in speed, size, and athleticism. And that's going to make them, I think, exciting to watch. A guy like Zach Austin is going to make plays probably in every game where you're going to say, whoa, He's going to make plays that gets everybody up out of their seats and start like high-fiving their neighbors and stuff like that. He is going to make a play like that almost every game this season, and it's going to be really exciting to watch. It's going to be fun to watch. And Bub Carrington, I think game to game, his development and progress, I think he's going to arrive on Monday night as a playmaker, ready to make plays, ready to facilitate, ready to finish on his own if he needs to, and he's only going to keep getting better. This is an exciting team, and maybe we're overreacting to an exhibition game, but a lot of this falls in line with, I think, what we all thought this summer and what we've all thought as we moved into the fall, that this is going to be an exciting team, a lot of really interesting pieces, and should be pretty fun to watch. So that's our overreaction to the exhibition game. I said we weren't going to do it, but then I told you we will. And you know what? We'll probably overreact to the North Carolina A&T game next week too, because that's what we do. We overreact. So got that to look forward to. Listen, make sure you like and subscribe our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, so you don't miss any of our Pitt video content, these Morning Pitt videos, the live stream on Wednesday nights, or our post-game show. Don't forget, we will be live after the Florida State game on Saturday night right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Probably start around 9 or 10 o'clock, so you don't want to miss that. Like and subscribe, and you will be tuned in for it. All right, thanks so much for watching this morning. We appreciate it, and yeah, it's Thursday, folks. We almost made it to the end of the week. We'll have the Morning Pitt mailbag tomorrow, so make sure you get your questions in on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com, and we will catch up with you then. Have a great Thursday. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Morning Pitt right here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.